I really am genuinely excited about this one.
The issue is not does budgeting work, it's what do you do instead. Not a lot of people know this.
Hi everyone, welcome to another video. This is quite an exciting one for me. I referred to this back in the summer. We raised the topic of beyond budgeting back in the summer, and I was very much hoping to get Dr Stephen Morlidge on camera, and logistics and somehow got in the way, so it's just taken a little while to make it happen. I really am genuinely excited about this one. I saw you talk back at an EPM roadshow for Adaptive, I think it was, about 10 years ago.
Oh,
and I can tell you the diagram you drew on the board. And I was fascinated by what you had to say there. And then our paths crossed again at the Beyond Budgeting Roundtable, and we can refer to that later, about 6 months ago, and it was a pleasure to make your acquaintance again. I've had this little book on my bedside table for some time. I've been becoming increasingly interested in this topic. So
yeah, it's good for insomnia, that
one. I've got that one as well. So very interested to explore this topic. But before we dig into it, perhaps I think you'll probably introduce yourself better than me. Perhaps.
Okay. So I always say I had two careers. My first career was as a practitioner, as a finance person in Unilever. Great company, working with great people. But like most people working as finance practitioners, you end up finding you're doing a lot of things wrong, screwing things up. And at some point that became something which I couldn't tolerate anymore. And I found myself becoming increasingly kind of cynical and frustrated. So I left there before I became too old and decrepit. And the second career is really directed at trying to work out what I should have done if I'd have known better. So two halves of the career. So the first half as a regular finance person, which I did pretty well, even though I say so myself.
You don't get into Unilever by accident. So
No, that's one of the great things about Unilever. You're surrounded by good people. It kind of makes you think you might be okay as well.
Yeah.
But the second half is really kind of a mixture of research, writing, and developing and talking about new ideas. So I think I've written 7 books now. I've got another one in the works at the moment, and that is tremendously fulfilling. It would be more fulfilling if more people kind of got it.
Yes. I feel that from my side of the fence as well. When we get into this, we'll talk about it.
Yeah. So that I have some frustrations around that, but I've not regretted making that choice to read Unilever.
No, it's clear from when I hear you speak, the passion is clear. So I think if ever a person was in the right job, it feels like you are.
Yeah. And so my online sort of brand, if you like, is the Radical Pragmatist, which I think kind of captures it quite well, because I'm one of those people who's perpetually curious, and I've got a kind of teenage iconoclastic streak in me. Yeah. So I'm always challenging and wanting to find a better way of doing things, and it's particularly satisfying if that's not the traditional approach to doing things. But at the same time, it's easy to be critical. What's much more challenging and much more rewarding is to find out how you can actually do something different in a very pragmatic way.
Yes, and get a better result.
Yeah. So being able to do practical, everyday things in a different, better way is really what turns me on.
Yeah, I totally get that. I think it's probably the fair streak of that is what got me into what I do. Selling Jedox. And we refer to books and writing, though. We're not being paid for any of this, but Stephen has written a number of great books. We'll put the links at the bottom when we finish, if you're interested in exploring this topic more. So the topic itself, beyond budgeting, the idea is that budgeting has had its day.
Yeah.
If it ever should have had it, and that there's probably better ways to approach things now. And it has. Should just let's start by why has budgeting had its day? What's
well? Let's go back a bit. Budgeting was a product of the 1920s.
Yes.
Yeah. So not a lot of people know this.
American, wasn't it? I think
it was the first book that was written on the subject, called Budgetary Control, was written by a chap called James O. McKinsey. The name might ring a bell.
Mm-hmm.
In 1922, and it was really the solution to a problem that really hadn't happened before in history, which is large, diversified companies that were not ruled by a single autocratic owner.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So they needed something to help them coordinate. Essentially, it was originally a coordination tool to coordinate large, diversified companies. And in that context, it's easy to see why it was needed and easy to see why it worked well.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, things have changed a little bit since then.
They have. Yeah.
Not least the fact that information technologies come along, and information technologies starting with the phone.
Yes.
Which means that you can coordinate in lots of different ways. You don't need to do it in the kind of rigid, fundamental way that traditional budgeting did. And actually, since 1922, when that was first introduced, it didn't really catch on globally until the 1960s. It didn't catch on in Europe until the 1960s. And only really kind of became embedded in the American business culture as a result of two things. One is James McKinsey went on to found the first management consulting company,
mm-hmm.
and guess which is what the first management consulting product was.
Yes.
So somebody had a huge interest in selling a way of doing things, which has never happened before. Secondly, when after the Second World War, when the GIs came back, and the GI Bill went through Congress to fund the education of people who'd missed out on 6 years of education. They pumped a lot of that money into practical education, which was business schools, and business schools had to teach something, and guess what they taught. So it's kind of a little bit of a historical accident that it's as prevalent as it is, but it is so now deeply embedded in work culture.
Yeah.
It's difficult to imagine how it could ever have been different.
Yes.
And also it's very difficult to change it. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So that's the kind of history of it.
It always strikes me that if it hadn't been invented, you wouldn't invent it in today's world.
Exactly.
Because everything's moving so quickly.
Yeah. And the reason is everybody knows what the problems are. Sometimes they need to be reminded of it,
mm-hmm.
But the problems are fairly clear. One is it's incredibly bureaucratic.
Yes.
Secondly, it's very inflexible.
Mm-hmm.
Once you've constructed a budget, it's very difficult to change it. Thirdly, which is in many ways I think the most important one, but the one that's more subtle and less obvious, is it generates a lot of dysfunctional behaviour.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason it does that is because the way that you win in the budgeting game, and mindful of the fact that people who are very good at the budgeting game are the ones at the top of the organisation,
yes.
which makes them rather resistant to change, is that the way you win is to, if you're talking about a cost budget, is to negotiate the biggest budget, budget you possibly can.
But you've identified it is a game in itself. I mean, the real game should be delivering to customers.
Exactly.
But in fact, so much effort is placed on playing the budget game and the internal
because the way you win is get the biggest budget you can do and make sure you spend it all.
Yes.
And if we're talking about targets, if you like, revenue budgets, the way you win that is to negotiate the lowest one you possibly can do and never exceed it.
Yes, exactly. So you can be doing,
So it's incentivizing exactly the wrong behaviours.
Yes.
And then there's a fourth reason, which is sometimes overlooked, which is it completely distorts people's perception of what good performance is.
Yes.
Because you're setting an arbitrary target which against which you measure performance. And the only thing you know for sure is going to be wrong. It's either going to be too high, too low.
Well, budgeting is set on a set of assumptions.
Yes.
And I mean, the assumptions themselves could be certainly being challenged even by the point you get to the start of the budget cycle in terms of the time. By the time you're through the middle, 6 months, 12 months out, so much has changed because the modern world changes so fast for reasons we know, that you're measuring something against the wrong assumptions. What was good for that set of assumptions is not necessarily good for the circumstances you're facing now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's and by the way, the first critique of budgeting came in about 1952, Chris Agiris.
So it's never been popular.
So it's the problems have been known for as long as budgeting's existed.
Yeah.
So the issue is not does budgeting work, is what do you do instead?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the key problem. And I think that's the bit that I think Beyond Budgeting has cracked. Yeah.
Good. We're talking Beyond Budgeting, and I referred to the Beyond Budgeting Roundtable. There is a movement behind this, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think you have there's no one answer, I don't think, to what you put in place. Although Beyond Budgeting Roundtable is now getting pretty close to a common set of practices, I think. So perhaps you just want to explain BBRT and what they've done to develop this, and then perhaps let's look at where we might go instead of budgeting.
Yeah, okay. So the Beyond Budgeting Roundtable kicked off in 1998. And for my sins, I was one of the original sponsors, so I've been at it for goodness, nearly 30 years. And it started off as a cross-industry research project led by a couple of guys, Robin Fraser and Jeremy Hope, who met in an airport lounge somewhere in the States and got around to talking about budgeting. Really along the lines of the conversation we've just had. Everybody knows it doesn't work. There must be somebody out there who's done something different.
Yeah.
And so we got together a bunch of companies, including Unilever, to try to find out who was doing budgeting better. That's where it started. But pretty soon discovered a couple of things. One is lots of people were doing things differently, but didn't know of each other.
Mm-hmm.
But despite not knowing of each other, they were doing things differently in a rather similar way.
Okay.
Which kind of thought, maybe there's something kind of rather fundamental here. And then the second big insight they had is when they visited Svenska Handelsbank, which is Swedish clearing bank, who didn't have budgets and hadn't had budgets at that point for 25 years.
That's
50 years without budgets. And really, the key insight there was budgeting was a physical manifestation of a bigger problem to do with the way companies were run and led, and that you couldn't look at the processes in isolation. You really had to look at the whole management model, which is what we now describe it as a management model.
Yeah, I've kind of, my brain's been on this journey. I immediately thought, well, if it's not budgeting, then presumably you're doing more frequent forecasting, rolling forecasting. I'm sure that's part of the component of it, but you very quickly realize that it is about how you manage a company. Yeah. And it's about releasing that command and control style to a more collegiate.
It's a system, so it's not a single process, it's a set of processes, how they interrelate and how they and their relationship with the way the company is run, the management style, the structure, the ethos, the values, the purpose, all of those kind of things are part of the management model. Which doesn't mean to say that to go beyond budgeting, you need to change absolutely everything all at once. But you do have to recognise there are interdependencies and understand those and work with those.
So for the benefit of people watching here, if you were to, the lift pitch of what does the alternative look like? What are the key components of that? If someone's thinking, well, I think I might do this, what are the key areas that they're, and the processes that they're looking to put in place? And then perhaps we can explore them.
Okay. So really what beyond budgeting is a set of principles. Yeah, there are 12 principles grouped into two. There's a set of process principles and there's a set of leadership principles. And the process principles are those which you need to adopt in order to make your processes more adaptive and more responsive to the outside world. And the leadership principles are leadership principles that are necessary to help make the company, your organization, more self-managing. Because if you just focus on adaptive processes, because things are changing a lot and frequently, it's impossible to maintain a centralized top-down command and control.
So you have you need to be more lighter foot on the ground in front of the experience you're facing in the business, and the people at the coalface, the managers, need to adapt quickly. But if their management structure is constraining them from adapting quickly, then that becomes the constraint. Hence the two components.
I mean, and a good analogy for this, and it's not a lazy analogy, it's a really good analogy, is the military.
Okay, yes.
Where people tend to think military is top down, very autocratic, and jump when I tell you to jump. But since the First World War, which is kind of the archetypal disaster of centralized planning, the military have come to recognize, in order to be effective on the battlefield, you need to be agile and adaptive. And you will only do that if you give authority and a degree of autonomy to people who are actually on the ground doing the fighting.
Yes.
Yeah. So the agile processes, military processes, have to sit within a structure and a style of leadership and a style of managing, which provides effective local autonomy, but within an overall structure, which means that local autonomy doesn't become chaotic. Yeah?
Yes.
So the two go hand in hand. So
very much.
Traditional budgeting goes hand in hand with highly centralized, hierarchical, functional organizations, which are driven from the top.
Yes.
If you want to be adaptive, the only way you can be adaptive effectively is to develop a set of management structures and processes which allow for effective autonomy. Yeah.
Which, ironically, if you ask most C-suite, they'd say that's the bit they want to focus on. They want to be able to mentor and help, and they don't want to manage people and be in control. They want to go and do their core passion, which is the function.
But they find it very difficult to let go of the centralized fixed planning processes, because that's what gives them a sense of control. But that is largely illusory.
Yes. Yes.
And it's that kind of it's really a psychological challenge, which is in many ways the biggest problem. The processes, make the processes associated with ground budgeting make logical sense, and I think it's easy for people to intellectually buy into those. But it's that psychological commitment to managing in a different way.
Yes.
That is a real challenge.
I think it shows up in the remote working argument that's been going on in the last few years, I think. Do you trust the people to just get on and do their job, or do you have to manage every minute that you can't see them?
But it's not a binary thing. It's not, do you allow people to do what they want to do, or do you control them centrally?
Yeah.
It's how do you give people the freedom to contribute in the way that they are able to, and most people want to, whilst maintaining organizational alignment and organizational cohesion. So
it would strike me that the way you measure and manage that, I was going to say control, but that's the wrong word, I think. It strikes me you're moving much more towards KPIs and a forecast based on a set of assumptions that can change rapidly. And then there's presumably the measurements have to be reported as you go up the chain. But the measurement side and that side is much more KPI.
I word KPI, I'm not quite sure what it means. But
measurement of ratio.
What you mean is, which I think you do, is letting go of hard and fast constraints.
Yes.
Yeah. And seeing measurement as a question of informing action and guiding action. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So if your sales double, it would be reasonable for you to increase the number of sales order staff that you have.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, your constraints, it's loosening constraints. But it's loosening constraints without losing control. That's the trick.
Yeah. So the senior team are presumably become much more strategic. They're there to give the strategic direction, possibly even the tactical direction.
The strategic direction is one of those things which, if it's communicated effectively, acts as a constraint on action. It's one of those things that stops autonomy becoming chaotic. It's one of those things.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are others.
There are lots of those.
You mentioned there were principles. I think it's 12. Could you elaborate on those a bit more? I think you split them into two sections.
Okay. So first of all, where do the principles come from? Starting with the process principles, I think what we realised was one of the fundamental problems of traditional budgeting is you were trying to, through budgeting, achieve multiple purposes through one process. And if you wanted to replace the process element of budgeting, you need to understand each of those purposes, each of which you still need to achieve, but to build processes which achieve each of those individual purposes more effectively than a single crude instrument the budget can do. So let's go through the purposes. One of the purposes of traditional budgeting, which you still need to achieve in a beyond budgeting environment, is targeting. Identifying your aspirations, where you want to go. Traditional budgeting says you have fixed number, which is fixed for a year. If you're below that, it's bad. If you're above it, it's good, and vice versa. And as I said earlier, the only thing you know about a target you come up with is going to be wrong.
It's going to be wrong.
So instead of having that, moving towards something which is more continuous. So you're looking at trends rather than in annual buckets. And as far as possible, referencing the outside world or peers, if you can't reference the outside world, peers with, if you like, the internal environment. Because it's business is about winning. It's not about hitting a number, really. So that's number one, target. Number two is forecasts. And one of the problems with traditional budgeting is there's a fundamental conflict between targeting and forecasting, which budgeting ignores, because the target needs to be stretching, whereas the forecast needs to be realistic. So they're never really going to be the same number.
No, I'm sure a number of the audience will recognise that one straight away.
So it's clear why forecasting doesn't work in a budgeting environment. So in a beyond budgeting environment, you're looking for forecasts to be expectations, not aspirations, and for those to be not confined to a financial year, referencing the natural cycle of the business, which for some businesses, like retail businesses, might be very short term and fast. For other businesses, say real estate, it could be longer term and less dynamic.
Absolutely.
And building a process which provides you with information that are relevant to the decisions which you need to make. Which means that it's going to be much less detailed than traditional budgets. So that's the second purpose. The third purpose is allocating resources. Traditional budgeting, there's a bun fight, everybody competes for unlimited resources, and once you've got them, you treat them as an entitlement and you hang on to them. Whereas with beyond budgeting, it's in essence a competition for resources, so that resources get channeled towards those projects or those areas of the business where they're likely to have the biggest impact. So that's the third one. Fourth one is performance evaluation. Yeah, so traditional budgeting, you've got a guess called a budget, which is out of date, and you've got an actual, which has got an unknown amount of noise in, and you compare the two, and somehow, by some miracle, that comes up with useful information. Something I've never understood. It's a recipe for generating a fiction, and management accountants, of which I was one, we spend all my time trying to lace a story around it so that it makes sense, whereas it really doesn't. So performance evaluation in beyond budgeting world is much more orientated towards trends and comparisons against more meaningful benchmarks.
Yeah, and more current benchmarks.
And more up-to-date benchmarks, yes. Yeah, absolutely. So that's the fourth principle. The fifth principle is rewards and incentives. Traditional budgeting, you tie the incentives to the budget, which just makes all of the dysfunctions of budgeting much worse than they otherwise would.
And it's in my experience, it's the most common objection. We can't take away budgets because everyone's targeted against budget.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that
my bonus relies on it.
And I'm very good at negotiating, so why would I want to change?
Yes.
Yeah. And also it's very individualistic. Yeah.
Yes.
Whereas most people recognize they live in an organization, and you don't, that organization succeeds or fails by people working together effectively. So it makes far more sense to build reward systems, and I'm very consciously using the word reward rather than incentivize. Reward people based upon collective achievement.
Right.
Yeah. So that's five, and the sixth one is coordination, because the reason why budgeting was originally invented, as I mentioned earlier, was to coordinate in the absence of information systems and ERPs and all that.
Yes.
Thing. So instead of using the budget as a coordination mechanism, find other ways to coordinate, which might be bureaucratic, like S&OP processes, or it might be much more informal, in terms of finding ways for people who've got mutual interest to engage more effectively and more freely. So that's the 6 process principles. So
yes.
you still need to do all those 6 things,
yes.
but do them in a different way.
Yes.
And a consequence of that is that there's more flexibility. And with flexibility comes ambiguity and uncertainty. And one of the challenges that comes with that is getting comfortable with the fact that very often you don't really know and you're not really sure.
Yeah. And
things aren't quite as nailed down in the real world as you'd like them to be. And it's so for managers and for leaders, getting comfortable with managing explicitly in an environment which is more ambiguous and more uncertain is one of the things that's going to be.
That external environment has always been uncertain.
It's always been there.
It's lifting the lid off it and exposing it, isn't it?
It's being grown up about.
Yes.
It's get real. Yeah.
And I think you said the psychological, people management side of it and control of it was the other set of principles, and you can see how some of these themes started.
I mean, it's we've got 6 leadership principles as well, which just to whiz through them. Purpose, being more purpose driven and less the purpose is to hit the numbers.
Yeah.
Values, values which say what is allowed, what is not allowed. So more to do with culture and less to do with rules and regulations. Transparency, which is giving people access to the information that they happen to need at that point in time to make good decisions rather than controlling information tightly. Organisation, which is being less functional, more team-based. Autonomy, which is giving decision-making power to people lower down the organisation. And what is called in the literature customers, but I prefer to think of it in attention. Where do you focus your attention? In traditional budgeting, your attention is focused towards upwards and inwards because you win by pleasing your boss. Whereas what you want is an organisation where the attention is focused externally. How can I do a better job in serving the customer? How can I compete more effectively? And those two, the leadership principles and the process principles are complementary. And in some ways, so if I just take one small example, is in a traditional budgeting environment, the goal is the target. Yeah. Now, if you're moving away from the goal being explicitly expressed as a fixed target, which everybody knows and recognizes, you've got to substitute something for that. And in my head, what substitutes for that is purpose. So you're less reliant on those bureaucratic target systems. You're less reliant on those if the business has a clear sense of mission and a purpose, and so everybody knows what the ultimate goal is. Everybody knows what good looks like.
Yes.
Because they have something other than a number against which they can make that.
And much more of a stake in it.
And much more of a stake in it. And it gives working life a sense of purpose and a meaning.
Yes.
And consequently has power that a bureaucratic control system can't.
Yes.
I mean, culture is really a control system. Yeah.
Yes.
Control is one of those words that has a derogatory context. Really, what control means is it's the power to influence.
Yes.
And if you're running an organisation, you need
that power. Yeah, you need to take it in a certain direction.
The question is, how do you exercise that influence?
Yes.
Do you exercise that influence bureaucratically, or do you exercise it through providing people with a framework within which they can work effectively?
Yeah, you put that very eloquently. I started out on this journey, when I first started talking about it. And you think, well, budgeting is the realm of finance. It's the CFO. We have to do it, and you very, very quickly realise, as you've just explained, that it actually is. It's about how you control the whole organisation. So it's more than just the CFO. And when you move away from it, it really highlights that this is a journey that the whole business has to go on. And it's almost a conversation you have with the CEO rather than the CFO, first of all. The CFO might, manage the forecasting and the trend analysis and all that sort of stuff, but it's actually about a whole management approach to this, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And the way I think about it from a finance perspective, I mean, what money is energy. Yeah. So the classic definition of energy in physics is the capacity to do work. Yeah, that's the role that money plays in organisations.
Yeah, we need Brian Cox.
You cannot do work without money.
Yes.
And so what finance people are doing is we're managing the metabolism, because that's the system in organisations, of which organisms are one sort of organisation, that manages energy flow. So that's our job. Yeah, our job is to safeguard energy, make sure it isn't wasted.
Yeah.
And to direct that energy to the right places
at the right time.
And that's an important role, but it's deeply integrated with everything else to do with the organisation, its structure.
Yes. And so much of, even today with the modern systems, finance teams still find themselves just looking backwards at where the energy went rather than concentrating on where the energy should go.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I agree, but you're not going to do a good job looking forwards unless you've understood what's happened in the past. Yeah.
Yes. And have a good understanding.
Yeah, and the other thing is what's happened in the past is fact, whereas all forecasts are guesses. Yeah, so it makes absolute sense to try to anticipate the future and to frame your planned actions in that context. But we should never lose sight of the fact it is a guess.
Yes.
And is therefore likely to be wrong.
So understanding the past is important, not just measuring it.
Absolutely. And the past, in this case, is not last month's results or last quarter's results. It is a trend.
Yes.
Yeah. So the organisations, like like any sort of organisation, is a dynamic phenomenon. Yeah. So its future is to some greater or lesser extent a product of what's happened in the past and a continuation of trends in the past. So we've got to get out of this kind of bucket mentality.
Yeah.
And learn that understanding what has happened is about understanding trends and the dynamics of the business. It's not static.
So you've actually done this yourself, I believe. And you've probably seen a few other people do it as well.
But I hope I've certainly helped other people to do this and seen how effective it is. And effective in the sense that it generates a demonstrable improvement in performance. So I want to kind of, if anybody's got this in their head, dismiss the idea this is kind of some fluffy tree hugging idea. Yeah. It's, in fact, our strapline in Beyond Budgeting is performance the right way.
Right.
Yeah? And those two aspects are really important.
So if we have a CEO watching this, this improves the performance of your company. This is not finance playing with themselves.
No, this improves the performance. Basically because you're responding to the outside world and creating a work environment where people can be more productive and feel more fulfilled. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be a surprise. So the reason why I say I wish is because I really only worked out how to do all this stuff when I'd stopped being bombarded with the everyday crap you get as a finance practitioner.
Yes.
Where you're basically sort of trying to just keep your head above water.
Yes.
All the time. The example I'm going to give comes from Unilever, where what happened is I kind of transitioned from being a practitioner to somebody who worked in something we brandly called the Finance Academy. And my role in the Finance Academy was to take Beyond Budgeting ideas, package them, and try to bring them into the organisation. So I spent the best part of 3 years going around the world just talking about this stuff. And what was in my head is, given there was just me and Unilever at that stage was 240,000 people, chances of me personally being able to do anything meaningful were likely to be very small. But if I could sow the seed,
inspire others
in Unilever, and most of that seed would end up on stony ground, but occasionally a seed would find itself in a little moist crevice, and something beautiful would grow from that. That was my plan, and surprisingly, because usually most of our plans in life never actually work. This particular
not as we wanted to. No.
Did. So there was this one part of Unilever where I was lucky that I had a financial controller who came along to one of my talks, who was broad-minded and enthusiastic and saw Beyond Budgeting ideas, how they could work in his company, which was a food division of Unilever in a Central European country. So the problem with that company is they've been stuck, in terms of growth of flatlining. And the more that growth flatlined, the more that the then management of the company tried to make the company perform by setting more and more targets, more and more short-term that they made sure they hit.
Yeah.
But the way they hit them is by promoting, which gave a sort of temporary sugar rush, which then was accompanied by a crash afterwards. So it was just performance was like this.
Yeah,
up and down. That board got swept away. New board came in, said clearly everything we're doing is wrong. Got rid. So stopped doing all of the stuff they were doing. The problem the board had then was they didn't know what to do differently. And they had the courage and far-sightedness to say, actually, we're a new board. We're actually all expats, most of them. We don't speak the language.
Yeah.
But we've got lots of good people in this company who've been working in these functional silos. We think they want to do a good job. They want this company to succeed. So let's give them the opportunity to redesign the way the company works. So they went away in a for a 2-week sort of away. No, it wasn't away day because it was 2 weeks. Sort of swam in cold lakes and all that kind of stuff. But out of it, sort of 2 things came out. One was a kind of cultural thing, which is is the importance of shifting away from this top-down, board-driven, prescriptive approach to management to building teams which were self-managing but coached and supported. So that was one aspect of it, which accidentally happened to map very well against the Beyond Budgeting leadership principles, which I didn't speak very much about in Unilever. The second bit of it is a radical redesign of the processes. And on Beyond Budgeting lines. So instead of fixed quarterly targets, at a very granular level, the foods leadership team, which is the kind of one level below the board, set a set of goals which were continuously updated, which were not a single number, but what they described as silver, gold, platinum. So a range of minimum acceptable achievement to a kind of extreme stretch. The idea being, and those are continuously reviewed, the idea being, and this is this kind of neat bit about it, is the closer that you get to excellent performance, the more revenue you generate, the more resources that you've got to spend on doing good stuff. The more resources you've got to spend on doing good stuff, the more revenue you can generate. So it's set up this kind of positive dynamic. Yeah. The better the better our collective achievement, the more money we have collectively to spend. The more fun we have. Yeah. So you set up this positive feedback loop, whereas in traditional budgeting you have a doom loop.
Yes.
We set the high target. We're not going to meet that high target, but we still got this profit target to hit. So what do? We cut resources. Yeah. So you get a negative.
Start managing expectations downwards at the same time.
You get a negative spiral. So that completely kind of changes the dynamics and the mindset of the people involved.
Yes.
Because instead of saying this is my budget, hands off, it's I know I could spend this money, but that guy over there has got a much better project. Why don't you give it to him instead? Yeah. In fact, the chairman said to me that he knew that something really special had happened when somebody who worked for him in marketing said, I think you should give somebody else the money. Yeah.
Wow.
So completely different approach to targeting. Yeah. In terms of forecasting, one set of numbers, so you don't have this kind of silly business where everybody's got their own forecast and everybody argues about which one's right. Nobody second guesses it, and if it doesn't come to our target, it's not why not or what are you going to do about it. It's that's interesting. Why is that? Yeah. What do we do about it? And that's probably the biggest lesson I've learned from the forecasting. In my work on forecasting is because a forecast should be an expectation, and that's different to an aspiration, there should be gaps. In this context, gaps are good.
Yes.
Yeah. They give you information about what you need to do differently if you're going to meet your aspirations.
Mm-hmm.
And they're also what helps you to determine how much money that you've got to spend. Yeah.
Yes.
How much money you've got to invest. Which brings me on to the third point of what they did in this particular company. So rather than having fixed budgets for the year, they had a quarterly process where essentially it was a competition for funds.
Mm-hmm.
People came along with their ideas about what they wanted to do, and if they were affordable and people thought they were good ideas, they got the authority to spend. So money was attracted to good ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And each of those good ideas was specified in such a way that it was clear what success looked like.
Yeah.
And if you came up with a good idea and it worked, then there's more chance that you get money next time around.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not just people have money to spend. It was they're not accountable. I don't like that word, but it was clear to everybody whether they were successful or not.
Yeah, that's the transparency thing.
There's no reward for bullshitting.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It's about delivering.
Yeah.
So then you've got a very dynamic process where every quarter you're looking at how much money have we got to spend, what are the ideas we've got to spend on it. Money followed good ideas.
Yeah.
Good ideas were validated, or they were not validated, and people would learn and move on from that. In terms of performance evaluation, there was no variance analysis at all. They used my number one secret weapon is moving annual totals, which means you look at the last 12 months, and move on a month and look at the next 12 months and look at the next 12 months, and each data point is plotted, and and those plots show a trend, and it's astonishing how often they expose things that are happening, which people kind of intuitively in their gut thought were happening, but all of the traditional metrics just obscure.
Yeah.
Extremely powerful, very simple approach that shows you performance as a picture.
Okay. So moving annual targets. Total. Moving annual total.
And their S&OP process, which their financial forecast was generated from, was the coordination method. Interestingly, they didn't touch the reward system at all, which many people, when I talked about beyond budgeting, think it's all about getting the reward system. And I say, no, it isn't. In my experience, a reward system can be part of the problem, but is never the solution.
Okay.
Yeah. And in this particular case, Unilever's reward system was so anemic that it didn't really incentivize people. So the fact that it was not aligned to beyond budgeting really didn't.
I've seen a few corporate bonus systems that never paid out. So,
and the thing that got me really excited about this, it was a nice story, but when you looked at the moving annual total, the revenue of this business, which is really kind of what drives the bottom line, pre this shift in leadership, it was like this, because of this kind of arrhythmia that was introduced by this hit the number behaviour. New board came in before revenue went. The new management processes. So the away day was November, December. They were approved by a board meeting at the end of December. They were put in practice on January the 7th, and January went like that, and then February went like that.
Really?
And March went like that, and so on and so forth. So it was kind of within a matter of weeks, if you looked at the moving annual total, the performance of this business radically changed. So a business that was flatlining to one that consistently grew at 7% for 3 straight years. And I was absolutely gobsmacked, because as much as I believe in this stuff, and I've done PhDs and stuff, so I know why, from a scientific point of view, it's likely to be more effective. It still absolutely shocked me just how successful it was.
Yeah.
And it was way short of kind of extreme beyond budgeting of the sort, if you like, that's exhibited by the way Handelsbanken were. It's just, but what it was clear, consistent, and radical, in the sense it was extreme, but
it sounds like it freed up the middle management to actually show the stuff.
Yeah, it was not, radical isn't the word I'm looking for. It was a very clear break with the past.
Yes.
Both from a process point of view, there's no messiness, process point of view, but also a leadership and cultural point of view.
Yes.
And you're quite right about your point about middle management. They became the drivers of the business.
Yes.
And I recorded a video of that team, the food leadership team. And on the video, all of the blokes have very short hair.
Yeah.
And what transpired was, just to give you an idea of the sense of motivation, the sense of camaraderie, is that the food leadership team, the guys on the food leadership team, said to the business, if you hit, we think, we're targeting some 5% growth by June, but if we think you can do 7, if you hit 7, we'll shave our hairs off. They did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, good on you.
The other thing that which gives you an idea is the sales guy said, I never used to like finance people. Now I go for a drink with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they were working as people.
Yes.
Not as functional representatives.
Yeah.
There were people with functional skills, which were important, but they were not functional representatives. They were working together as a team.
Yeah. All bringing skills to
And the marketing person in that same video says, when you start talking to somebody in my team, you won't know what function they belong to.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Because they see
genuine cross-functional teams.
Yeah. So you've got this marriage of processes which create the space for a different kind of culture to grow, a performance culture, but it's a performance culture not in this kind of American sense of do this or else, but a performance culture.
Don't get me started on that topic.
This is great.
Yeah.
We're winning.
Yes.
It's fun.
Yes. Yes. Let's do more.
I get to go home earlier at night because I don't have this bureaucratic crap and politics to wait.
And I can sleep.
And it's extraordinary, the impact that has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's, if you can release that in a team or even in an individual, it's extraordinarily powerful. So, so I mean, hopefully that's whetted the appetite of a number of people on this video, watching this video. Where should they start? I'm keen. I mean, certainly buy a book.
Yeah.
Where would you recommend they start?
Well, there is no answer to that question.
Right.
Because everybody is in a different position within a business with different people. And each organization is working in a different industry, in a different context, etc., etc. So the place to start is where you think you can make progress. I mean, it sounds like a cop-out.
But you have to understand what the problem is before you can solve it.
Yeah, and you have to understand where the obstacles are and where the opportunities are. Now, there are many ways in which you can. there are more ways to screw things up by going in the wrong direction than there are right ways.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, the risk of doing a bit of advertising.
No, you go ahead.
This book, the Viable Map Workbook, is our best attempt to help people translate the principles in there into practice.
Okay.
And included in here are some archetypes in terms of here are ways of moving forward which are potentially positive, but be mindful of the fact that and here are some ways that we know don't work.
Right.
Yeah. And so what I'd, rather than try to answer that question and bullshit, I'd say go to that book.
Yes.
Understand the kind of system on which you're working, and then make some appropriate choices.
Yes.
Ultimately, nobody can do it by themselves.
I was about to say, it strikes me that introducing this idea to your peers and senior team is an integral part of this. You couldn't.
Yes, and it's a question of how best to do that.
Yes.
It's about finding allies.
Yes.
Yeah. But nobody can do it on their own. And I included in that is the CEO. A CEO can't say, right, we're doing this.
Yes.
You all become enlightened because I say so. So ultimately, and I would say the change process, I mean, when I was doing the job in Unilever, change manager in Unilever, at least 50% of my time was focused on the change process rather than the technical changes.
Yes. Yeah.
So you can't do it by yourself, but there is no, I am not going to come up with here are 6 things you need to do, and I don't buy into this approach that nothing happens unless you enlist the C-suite stuff either. That you can't eliminate bureaucracy bureaucratically. You can't bring about cultural change through bureaucratic means. No. So study the problem, understand the context in which you're working, and then make the appropriate first steps and look to build alliances with people who you think will help you to achieve what you want to achieve. The only one thing that, having said I'm not going to come up with a list, one of the things I came across 15 years ago, which I talk about again and again, is called the change formula. Have you ever come across
I don't know this, no.
Yeah, accountants love this because I write the formula on the board. Thank goodness, something I can get my teeth into. So the change formula has 4 terms. It's got dissatisfaction, it's got vision, it's got first steps, and it's got resistance. And what the change formula says is you will only get change if you've got a clear sense of dissatisfaction, what is wrong, a sense of what the future looks like that engages people, and that you've got an idea about what you're going to do next. So if any of those values, the formula, is 0, nothing happens.
Okay. Yeah.
And I always say to people, particularly accountants, your biggest friend is dissatisfaction. Accountants tend to go to first steps.
Yeah.
Let's do something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But actually, I think dissatisfaction is the most important thing. Just remind people how awful things are. Keep on rubbing their nose in before you even begin to think about what.
Well, I mean, it's not too hard to come across certainly people in this audience who are dissatisfied with the budget process.
Yeah.
And I think from what you've described, I appreciate that there's no one way to do this, but it's going to be difficult to make it worse than a budget process, I think, in many situations. Yeah. And perhaps you have to, you're not going to get it right on the first go.
Yeah, and
be prepared to stumble.
And what's the worst thing that can happen? One of my colleagues always says that if it doesn't work, will you have forgotten how to do budgeting? No.
Yes.
Yeah. What have you got to lose?
Yes.
It's all upsides. Man.
Yes.
So the change formula says you've got to have all those 3 things.
Yes.
Yeah? And they have to be greater than R, which is the sources of resistance.
Right.
Yeah. And because it's a human system, so the sources of resistance could be, I don't know how to do this, I'm scared, what does this do to my position in the company?
What's in it for me?
Yeah. Or it could be, I don't buy into any of this stuff. It could be, the only way that people perform is if you incentivize them or punish them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So those are all the sources of resistance. And what the change formula says is you need all those three things on the left-hand side. But if you only do those things, as anybody with children knows, if you just increase the forces of change, what tends to happen, you increase the forces of resistance. Yeah. So you have to work on both sides.
Yes.
Both sides of the equation, and identify those things which are likely to be the biggest obstacles, and try to eliminate them. Sounds a bit sinister, but reduce,
mitigate them.
Reassure people, or find some ways to minimise the sources of resistance. Because if you can do that, then you don't need so much welly on the left-hand side.
Right. Understood.
And I think that change for you can it's basically a recipe for thinking about changing any human system. Yeah. It just so happens, I think it's quite useful.
Yeah, it reminds you it's not just one or two components. So there's a lot in there, but I think one of the places where this hits for many of our audience is forecasting. I mean, how do these principles and ideas impact forecasting? What things should people be thinking about to improve their forecasting?
Okay, so first of all, I'm going to focus here on what I call business forecasting.
Yes.
So we tend to use the word forecasting to mean a whole range of different things. So I think business forecasting is more medium term. It's about trying to manage the performance of the business, and a lot of that is about finance.
Mm-hmm.
There is also short-term operational forecasting, which is about, to put it in very, very simple terms, how do we know what we need to produce next month or next week? That's different, has different kind of principles. And it's very different from what you might call long-term forecasting, although I think long-term forecasting is almost a contradiction in terms.
Yeah, quite.
That's more kind of scenario space.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about business forecasting here, which is about given the current structures, how do you move resources around the organisation to get the best result? So I think of this I've got 6 principles: purpose, time, models, measurement, risk, and process. And I'll talk about what I think business forecasting should be about, and then contrast that with the kind of forecasting which you tend to see in organisations which are still working within a budgeting mindset. So purpose is the first thing, it's the most important thing. Why are you doing this? Yeah. I mean, why do you need to forecast at all? Yeah. The only reason you need to forecast at all is because time lags in the business. Because if you could react like that, why would you need to forecast? Yeah. So there are time lags within your business, and you're forecasting because there's going to be a gap between taking a decision and something happening.
Yeah.
So what is the decision which you need to take? Yeah.
Absolutely.
That is the most important thing.
Yes.
If you should collect information, which you're generating information in the forecast as opposed to collecting it. What information do you need to make that decision? Yeah? You should only collect that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All the rest of the stuff is irrelevant. Yeah. Traditional budgeting, on the other hand, we forecast because we have to forecast. We've got budgeting line items, therefore we need to forecast for each of those. Yeah. And the mistaken assumption, the more detail in which you do something, the better the answer will be. No. Statistically, that is wrong.
Yes.
Yeah. So the purpose of forecasting is make a decision. So you need to be really clear about that to start with. Because if you're not clear about that, no, your forecast process will be rubbish. The second thing is time. Yeah, coming back to what I said earlier, the reason why you forecast is because you can't react. Yeah. So what are the time lags within your business?
What's the natural cycle of that
What's
business?
the natural cycle? So the analogy I always use is a supertanker and a speedboat.
Yes.
Yeah. How far ahead does a supertanker need to look? How long does it take to stop?
Yeah.
How far ahead does a speedboat need to look? Well, I can tell you this thing. Yeah. That's why you have radar on supertankers but not on speedboats.
Yes.
Because that's what a radar is. It helps you to see the future. So there's one aspect which is the time horizon, and what a rolling forecast is not a forecast done more frequently, which some people think it is. A rolling forecast is one which has a fixed horizon. So if you're forecasting, if your lead times are 18 months, you always need 18 to look 18 months ahead. So it's fixed in that sense, not in calendar time. But the other aspect of time is how frequently do things change? If you've got a variable which is important, it changes frequently, you need to reforecast frequently. If you've got a variable which is unimportant, why bother? Just use last month's number. If you've got a variable which is important, which doesn't change very often, only reforecast it when it changes. So the time dimension is understanding how far ahead you have to forecast and the frequency within which you forecast, which will vary depending on what it is. So that's the second thing. As opposed to traditional forecasting, it's always 1 month, course of 1 year ahead, it finishes at the year end, you don't look any further, and all of that kind of stuff. It doesn't make any sense. So that's the second thing. The third thing is models. And there are 3 kinds of models, and the trick is to use the right one. 3 kinds of models. There is a mathematical model, sometimes driver-based, which is fine if your structure, the structure of your business, it doesn't change, and you can
the drivers
forecast your assumptions very well. It's driver-based, statistical. If history has told you that trends tend to be good predictors, use statistics. And the third one is judgment. So judgment is model-based in exactly the same way, except the model's inside your head. And the advantage with judgmental modelling is it's far more sophisticated and adaptable than the other kinds of models. The downside is it can easily be wrong. And if you're doing lots of judgmental modelling, it's very targeted. So understand the nature of the problem and choosing the right model. Fourth thing is measurement, which is universally done badly if it's ever done at all.
Right.
So the key point, what is the key thing you need from a forecast? Some people would say it needs to be accurate. Think again.
Yes.
Your forecast is never going to be accurate. What you need is for it to be reliable. For the purposes of decision making. So you start with
enough information to take the decision.
What quality of information do I need to take this decision? And it is always always consistent is your forecast needs to be unbiased. Which means to say that you're always going to have errors, but your errors on one side need to be balanced with errors on the other. If your forecast is biased, you're consistently forecasting too high or forecasting too low. You can't rely on that information. No. Secondly, it just encourages second guessing, and third guessing, and fourth guessing, and fifth guessing. And then you're in a mess.
And then the forecast has no value.
So eliminate bias, and then, so that's systematic error. Unsystematic error is variation. So how wide are those bands? And again, it's how inaccurate, in inverted commas, can I afford to be? So you're not looking to make the bands as tight as possible. It's just what's good enough.
What's the level of tolerance?
It's plus or minus 10,000 good enough? Plus or minus 50,000 good enough? So just be clear about that, number one, and then measure it.
Right.
And you need to measure it not just once, you need to measure every single time, more frequently. And there are some tricks around that and traps. I won't go into those. So that's the fourth thing. You know, if anything you're going to do and you can do tomorrow, like instantly, is measure your forecast.
Right.
Yeah. And it's, as I say, 99.9%.
Yeah.
Do that. Fourth thing is risk. The only thing you know about any forecast is going to be wrong. So understand how wrong it is likely to be.
And ideally, the areas where it could be more wrong than others.
Yeah. Yeah. And so understanding risk in your forecast is really important. It's one of those things when I wrote the book, is you ready? I didn't know how to do it. Over the last year, I've kind of worked out how to do it. Maybe we'll talk about that afterwards. But that's really important and something that is rarely done.
Mm-hmm.
And it's never done within a budgeting environment.
No.
And the final thing is process. You can only improve. Right. The key to good forecasting is build a good forecasting process, measure how well it's performing, and then improve it. Yeah. You can't improve something that isn't consistent. You play golf?
No, but I understand.
Yeah. If you swing the club differently every time, you're never going to improve your golf swing.
No.
You'll only improve your golf swing if you're consistent. It might be consistent.
You're wrong.
And the theory is, at least, if you're consistently bad, you can work out what it is you're doing wrong.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
But if you're not consistent, you can't improve the process. And so the forecasting process is not something you give to Gillian 1 month and Fred the next month and Jerry the next month, who does it all their own way. There has to be a consistent process that is replicated.
Yeah.
Otherwise, your measures won't give you the information.
Yes.
And of course, by definition, with budgeting, you're effectively only forecasting once a year. So
usually a different set of people. Yeah.
You're just guessing.
Yeah.
So those are the 6 key things that are key to a good budget.
So, yeah. I could go on forever here. As I suspected, I really enjoyed hearing what you have to say, and we probably will go on all afternoon. But I think, firstly, thank you. It's been a terrific pleasure for me. For anyone who's interested in knowing more about this, there are some books that really are very informative and go into depth on these topics. If you ever get the chance to see Stephen speak at an event or something, I suggest you take it. It was certainly inspiring for me. And hopefully, even if we've just helped one more person go on the journey of beyond budgeting and the performance and power that unlocks, I think this is successful. But hopefully, maybe even a bit more than that will come of this. Maybe we can see what the reaction is and perhaps pick up on a few topics later in time. So
I can
thank you.
waffle on lots of
thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Yeah,
nice.
Thank you.